Welcome back to the Play on Words podcast. You guys, it's Miss Beth, and I am declaring it. This is season 3. It is random because I have not done any other seasons, but it's year 3 of the podcast. So I need a fresh start, and I have a whole bunch of new segments that I want to introduce because I want it to be a little bit easier to follow. So as opposed to just answering random questions from you guys or having a guest, we're going to have a few new segments. So if you're brand new to the podcast, this is the perfect place to start. If you've been here for a while, thank you. I love you. Let's do a little recap of where we've been, because I think we had like 5 episodes released this summer. It was a little bit of a hectic summer. I spent most of my summer living at an all-boys summer camp. My partner owns an all-boys summer camp, so I was here like 2 weeks in May, 3 weeks in June, 3 in July, 2 in August, 2 in September. I'm actually here right now. Which I realized like that is why I feel hectic and I need this restart. So here we are. It was so fun. I had so many ideas. And if you followed on Instagram stories, you saw that I shared moments that I learned with a bunch of little boys, but played a lot of pickleball, did some jet skiing, learned how to water ski. Yesterday we went paddleboarding around the lake and I only fell one time. A lot of kayaking and rock climbing. It was so much fun. I also got to work with a few kids here on reading. Some of my friends who are in staff here got to share their little ones with me who live here with them, obviously, over the summer. So I got to work with a almost kindergartner and a second grader and one 7th grader. So it helped me get lots of new ideas to share with you all. And it also was just so fun for me in general to live at a summer camp, but also like it is so good for your brain to be outside this much. I spend way too much time online, and I think it's just like the nature of the world right now, but I didn't have service. I don't have service. So like you only could be on your phone when you were in the office. So I loved that for me and for my ADHD brain. So if you have a child with ADHD, remember they need to be outside. Actually, I just shared this recently. A bunch of my friends are in their 40s and they're women just getting diagnosed with ADHD. And they're like, oh my gosh, I thought this was a personality trait, or oh my gosh, I thought that something was so wrong with me. I didn't know that this was just my brain being wired differently. So I feel like I am the guru, having been diagnosed in the 90s. If you're listening to this and not watching it on visual, I'm, flipping my hair, pretending that it is a flex, but to get a diagnosis in the 90s, because if you've dove into this at all, that was not girls. It's harder for girls to get diagnosed, and it was not as talked about as it is now. I think, a lot of people will say there's so much more now. Yeah, probably we have more screens, our dopamine levels are harder to regulate because there's so much screen time and everything is different. But I feel like I'm the OG guru for my friends. And so I'm going to share a couple of things that I learned about myself that I shared with them. So if you suspect that you have ADHD, or if you do or your child does, 2 things that are very important. Number 1, protein. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm obsessed with Fairlife protein shakes. Don't come at me with the plastic or the whatever. There's something wrong with everything. You can find an alternative to whatever. This is what works for me, because even protein powder, the step of making it is one extra step that I don't need. So having them in the fridge, immediately having 30 grams of protein right when I wake up is literal game changer. Try it for yourself, try it for your child. But having like 150 grams of protein a day is the best thing for me. The second best thing for me, equal, not first or second, is getting outside within the first 15 minutes of waking up. And that's hard. In Chicago, it gets cold, but like my day is different. My day is better if I do it. It's like so good for your brain. And I do not look at my screen on my phone for 60 minutes. So if your child is struggling, try these 3 things: heavy protein, no screens for the first hour that they're awake, and getting outside as quick as possible. Now, today's episode is not about ADHD, but it is about routines. And so it's September 17th today. I'm recording this, and I'll probably post it today because I just actually had a meeting with someone and they're like, so your podcast, you do like once a month? I'm like, no, I'm just have not been on top of it. But so I'm either like record it and post it or forget. So anyway, today it's the middle of September and I have had, it's Wednesday, 7 calls, either consultations with a client or friends call me. 7, this is really specific, about their first or second grader having a terrible transition in school. All of a sudden, they are a couple weeks in, and these moms or dads are saying it is worse than ever, like worse than the first time they went to preschool, kindergarten, all of a sudden. And they're like, they've gone to school forever. They have so many friends. What the heck is going on? So I'm going to share some tips that I shared with these clients and friends. But if you are like, my kid's fine, don't stop listening, because these tips are going to be helpful for everyone. I promise. They might even be helpful for you because they're helpful for me. Like my boyfriend, again, is a camp owner, and he was talking with some parents about their kids also having a really hard time with the school year and transitions. And he heard me on a call and he goes, can you change your voice to be my voice and send me the last 10 minutes of that call so I can send it to all the parents that I talked to? Because that was really good advice. So I'm going to give that advice, whether it's a girl, boy, first time in school, 3 years old, 7th grader having a hard time. These are going to be transition pieces that I hope help you. And maybe they'll help even yourself. So those off the top: protein, get outside, and no screens are great. If you have a trampoline, and I highly suggest you have one, whether it's a personal trampoline or a big trampoline. I think a lot of people, especially if you have the yard, have a trampoline or have a neighbor with a trampoline. Get your kid out on the trampoline right away when they wake up. Rain or shine, winter, summer, get them out on the trampoline. Tell them to bundle up, go jump for 10 minutes. That is going to be so good for your child who is having either a hard time transitioning or is neurodivergent in any way. So get that body moving if you can. Get a personal size trampoline. I used to have one. I ran out of space. I gave it to my friend, and now I want it again. And it was because she had a child who was actually having a hard time transitioning, and I gave it to her like 5 years ago. Please let me know if you're listening to this. Am I allowed to ask for it back? Because her child's now in high school. Like, should I be like, it was like a nice one. It was like a $300 one. It wasn't like the cheapy one. Maybe it was $500. Whatever it was, is like, I really liked it, but I just didn't have space. And it was like, she was like, I'll take it. We could probably use it. And I gave her the suggestion of getting one. Can I ask for it back? Or is that like embarrassing? Do I just buy my own? Let me know. Okay. So we're going to talk about transitions, but also I wanted to tell you about some of the segments that you'll be hearing about in season 3 at the Play on Words. Okay. This is a silly one, but it's going to be called What's Wrong Diphthong. And if you don't know, a diphthong is a like spelling rule, or it's when 2 letters come together and make a new sound, similar to a digraph. If you've ever heard me talk about a digraph, but a digraph is usually introduced before a diphthong, but a digraph is when 2 letters come together and make a new sound, like TH. So we would explicitly say to a child, TH doesn't say t, TH says th, or th. But a diphthong is when a sound is formed by combining 2 vowels in a single syllable. So like O-I combining to make oi, O-U to make ow, These are diphthongs. Now, so I think I might do what's wrong diphthong, and it not just be about diphthongs, but it will be about like spelling rules. And so it'll be one of your questions because I get so many DMs about spelling rules and like how do I tell my child why this word is spelled this way? And I love explaining spelling rules. So that I think is going to be a segment. I'm telling you guys these segments ahead of time so you can tell me which ones you're excited about. So please send me a message on Instagram at Big City Readers and tell me what ones you're excited about and send in your questions. Okay, so what's wrong diphthong? 2, maybe I'll call it phonics fun. It's kind of similar to what's wrong diphthong. And to be honest, it'll probably be me going, do I say what's wrong diphthong today? Or do I call it phonics fun? And it's basically the same thing as that. Hot take book break. I love, as you know. So these are like not things that are new to the podcast. I'm just naming them now. So you can like fast forward to the episode where you want to hear this segment. Because as you know, I always love to ask anybody that I have on the podcast, what are you reading? But hot take book break will either be, what are you reading? And tell me, do you love it or hate it? Or it'll be my spicy opinions on things like The Rainbow Fish. As you know, I hate that book. In fact, I saw a friend with her sweet, sweet baby reading The Rainbow Fish, and she sent me the picture. And I said, love this picture, but I hate that book. And she goes, I know, but he likes the picture. Somebody gave it to us. Why is everybody giving The Rainbow Fish? Like, why do we think this is like the best book to give to people when they have a baby? Don't do it. So my hot take book break will be like, if you want to give this book at a baby shower, don't give this one instead. Instead of The Rainbow Fish, maybe try The Day You Begin. Okay. And I'll link that in the show notes. Okay. So those are 2 segments. Okay. I miss Beth pep talk because you guys have loved the pep talk episodes so much. And I think we have like 3 pep talk episodes, like a back to school pep talk, and how to get yourself ready for school, all that stuff. But a back to school pep talk will be a quick motivational moment where I can help you, whether it's around drop off. I'll share a story about drop off or a reading struggle from a consultation I had this week. Something along those lines, a quick pep talk if you're struggling with X. Sound it out spotlight. And this is something, we talk about a lot, letting your kids struggle and sounding it out. Like, don't just tell them what the word is. But we'll talk about like why. So I'll talk about what happens in a tutoring session. What did I see and what I did? So if your child is struggling with that, for example, like I had a student last week that was reading words like rough and thought, but they were getting them mixed up when they were writing it. They were confusing spelling patterns. So we'll talk about what to do when kids are getting tripped up in their reading and writing. Play on words. Now, this one I am excited about because that's the name of the podcast. And, kind of like Taylor Swift, there's always, I think maybe other people do this too, but Taylor Swift is the first musician that comes to mind where you have the name of the album, that song in there, which historically has not ever been my favorite song. Like, the name of, like in Evermore, there's the Evermore, the Tortured Poets in the Tortured Poets. So there's usually the name of the album, not always, name of the album in the song, or name of the album as a song. But that will be here, play on words. So this will be like what we're going to explore, like a pun that I like, or a funny mispronunciation, or even a classic word joke. So here's one for you. Did you know that there's only 25 letters in the English alphabet? Yeah, I don't know why. Okay, this summer, actually, this was a funny story. I was being introduced. I got here in the middle of second session. I went home to do some work for a little bit, and then I came back. And so, there's 2 sessions of camp. There's 4 weeks and 4 weeks. Some kids stay for 8 weeks. So the kids that were here for the second set of 4 weeks hadn't met me yet. And so my boyfriend introduced me, and he was like, you can ask 3 questions. And so somebody was like, what is something interesting about you? And I was like, I don't know. Why did I panic? I literally do this for a living. I speak to people for a living, but I panicked. I don't know. And I said, oh, okay, I used to be a comedian. And they were like, tell a joke in the mess halls, banging on the tables, tell a joke, tell a joke. And I couldn't think of any joke. I like didn't know how to explain in that moment to 400 people that like, well, stand-up comedy is more like storytelling. I can't really like think of a joke. And you're 7 or 15, which is honestly worse because like they are meaner. Actually, one 15-year-old. Okay, so I'll tell you the one 15-year-old story in a minute. But I was like, I can't think of any, but we like had to go to the next thing. And it was night programming starting. And I was like, every time to make up for not having a joke, every time you see me for the rest of the summer, I will have a joke ready. And it ended up being great because these kids started coming up to me, introducing themselves. Hi, I'm Sammy. Can you tell me a joke? They would tell me jokes. It was a great connection piece. You know, kind of like, I don't know if you watch Friends, but you know how Rachel doesn't, and she's like, oh, it's so awkward with Joey. I don't know what to do. And they're like, have a shared problem. That's how you work through it. This is a tip for kids too. Not that it would have been awkward because I would have introduced myself to them, but they had a reason to talk to me. You know, they felt confident. It's one thing to be like, go say hi, go meet a friend. You're so good at talking to people. Give them a reason. So they had a reason to come talk to me. But a 15-year-old, that's why I had to come up with so many dad jokes. And here's the worst part is that they would come up in groups and then I would tell it. I thought I only had to have one joke a day, but then like people were like, you already told me that. I'd had like 30 jokes a day. And they had to be, you know, obviously appropriate. And yeah, it was probably the most stressful part of my summer. But one 15-year-old hurt my feelings so much. He said, I heard him say to a friend, she's never told a funny joke. Oh, hurt my feelings so much. But I worked through it. And it did give me that insight of giving kids something to share with you, which is connected to what we're going to talk about, transitions. Okay, so here's the first tip. If you, the last segment will be called Homework Hall Pass, and it'll be things that you can absolutely say no to, like memorizing sight words or homework. And yeah, we're going to talk about how you can absolutely say no to homework in next week's episode. But today, transitions. My first tip for you, if you have a child who is having a hard time transitioning back to the school year. Now, I talked to a friend. She said her daughter is screaming, crying. She's loved going to school. Screaming, crying. She doesn't know where it's coming from. Of course, like, let's work with the teacher, the social worker. The school is helping. She's like, what else can I do at home? Do you have books? So yes, I sent her a list of books. And I will link those in the show notes as well. But the number one thing that I'm going to tell you to do is not try to squash that anxiety. So we want to say, I know you've probably heard to validate their feelings, and that's true too. You're feeling really overwhelmed right now. It's hard to go back to school. And that might work for your child. But I think the better move I've had more success with is just not trying to, so we can validate, and then we're going to give them a job. So they're having anxiety. So many kids are having so much anxiety. They're having anxiety. We're not going to try and squash that anxiety and say, you're fine. Oh my gosh, you have so many friends. You love your teacher. We're going to give it a job to do. So like, we're not going to be able to stop this energy that's like vibrating way up here. We're just going to move it to a different area. So you've probably heard like nervous and excited are right next to each other. So like, can you make your nervousness excited? Can you do that with your child's anxiety? So give it a job. I love to do this in my classroom. If I had a child who was not really listening or having a hard time, I would always give them a job. Like, I really need you to bring me this. Or if I have a student not coming to the call, like having pushback, we just had this with one of my teachers actually a couple of weeks ago, was having trouble getting a student to come to the call. I said, okay, you need to bring a pair of goggles and a banana to your next call. And what that does is it piques that part of our brain, right? We're interested. I am hooked. Why does my teacher need me to bring this to her? And so our brain is naturally curious, right? It's the same kind of thing in marketing. It's the same thing in how we pick books that kids like. We want to see that surprise ending. Our brain loves to close the loop. So maybe you're going to watch a video where someone says, don't do this one thing with your kid. And even if it annoys you, your brain has to close that loop. Same thing with kids. So if you're like, your teacher has asked if you would bring this book to her, your brain's like, I got to go see this through. So we're giving it that job. So all of the first and second grade parents that I talked to in the last week, I said, get your teacher involved in this. Or just like say, okay, I talked to your teacher. She said she doesn't have this book in the classroom library. We're going to give it to her. Give them the book to bring to the teacher, or ask the teacher ahead of time, like say, like, can I get anything from your Amazon wish list? Let your child bring that into the class, and probably the teacher will say, oh, this is so great. I'm going to have them, like maybe it's a plant. Then that child, it's their job to go check on that plant for once a week. Maybe the teacher will let them water that plant. So give that anxiety a job. Number 2, take a Saturday morning. Like you know how we have the Sunday scaries? They do too. Kids have them too. So take Saturday morning, like that's the furthest away from school that they'll ever be usually on the weekend, and go to school. But like practice the routine, not like get up, brush your teeth, but practice just the routine of driving to school, but give them a different job in the car. Their job is to put on a song, and you're going to listen to that same song. Maybe it's their favorite song. Maybe it's an upbeat song. Maybe it's a relaxing song. You're going to listen to that same song for every day when you go to school. So we're like building that routine, right? So just do that on Saturday morning. But maybe you listen to the song, then you park out in front of school, say, oh, hey, school, and then you drive away. And then you go to the coffee shop, or maybe you go to the coffee shop and you get a treat and you eat it in front of school. And you're going to say, like, either say nothing, or you're going to be, tell your child, like, I need to practice this routine more. So we're just going to practice this. But don't use this time to talk about how they're feeling if they're already that stressed. Just like go to the school and leave the school, just practice the routine. Use a different time, or in a couple weeks, talk about more of the feelings. But if they're already really activated, like we're just trying to reset and make it just fun, the drive to school. Okay. And then 3rd or 4th, I can't remember, you're going to do either get a physical thing, either a little bracelet. You're going to go get friendship bracelets on Saturday, or you're going to draw a little heart. This comes from the book, The Kissing Hand. Again, I'll link these books. Draw a little heart on your hand and their hand, and say, okay, every time you touch this, I'm going to feel that. I'm going to touch it, and we're going to be connected. And, or the friendship bracelet, you're going to say, okay, when you feel that way, I want you to roll the beads on your bracelet, and I'm going to feel it too. And I'm going to give you a big hug, and you're going to feel, oh, I'm hugging you. I wish I was with you. Or a handshake. This one is so good. My sister did this with her kindergartner when she was having a hard time, who's now a 7th grader. But a handshake. So build in that routine. So it's not like maybe the hug is working, but the handshake is this is what we're going to do. We're going to drive to school. We're going to listen. You're going to press play on the song while I drive. We're going to park. I'm going to get out of the car, open the door. We're going to do our handshake. And maybe the last part of the handshake is they turn around at the door and they give you finger guns, or give you a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, something really specific in your handshake that is part of the routine is going to help them be okay, I have a purpose, not just this big void of oh my God, I wake up and then I go and I leave my parents for so long. And, but no, we've made that void. We turned on the lights in that void, right? We've said, okay, actually in that time of getting to that space that feels kind of scary, you actually have a lot of jobs to do. So we don't have as much time to feel anxious because we've got a lot of activities we need to do. We need to have our handshake. We need to do, X, Y, Z. Then you might also say, you might not be able to see them at the window, but you can say, I'm going to go as close to your classroom window as I can. I'm going to wave for 17 minutes. And usually kids, when it's something specific, 17 minutes, it's kind of silly. We're lightening the mood. All these things, little by little, sprinkling, are easing some of the anxiety, hopefully. And also remember, this is not going to happen overnight. I'm going to go to the window and I'm going to wait for 17 minutes. You're probably going to be at music by then, but I'm going to stand outside the door. That reminder that you're standing outside the door is kind of a healing. It's helpful to kids that are anxious. Okay, my mom's right outside the door. My dad's right outside the door. My grandma, whoever it is right outside the door. I can get to work. It's just that kind of feeling of you're with me. The book, The Rabbit Listened. I have it on the podcast if you want to go listen to it with your kids. But The Rabbit Listened, spoiler alert, is about, somebody's trying to make someone laugh when they're upset. Somebody's trying to lighten the mood, all these things. But what the child really needed was someone to just listen. So it might be that you just create the space after school for your child to talk about how they're feeling. It might be that they just feel that you're there. So maybe they see you out the window waiting, and maybe you do that for a couple of days. Or maybe they don't see you. Their classroom's on the 3rd floor, but you just tell them. And spoiler alert, you don't really have to wait if they can't see you. Just like that idea that like, I'm going to be here. And then this subtle shift, I am all about the subtle shifts. So not in a subtle shift being like, if you read all of these books, I'll let you stay up late on Friday and watch movies. But like when you read all of these books, we're going to have to talk about them. So then we're going to have to stay up late so we can watch a movie after we talk about them. So it's that subtle shift from if to when. And that really makes a difference over time with kids. So that subtle shift of when I pick you up from school, we're going to get ice cream. Not if you go into school without crying, we can go get a treat. So talk about what you are going to do when you see them again, when you are reunited. This is going to be huge. And even like the subtle shift of saying like, one parent was said like, okay, I then was like, okay, I stayed for a while. And then I said, I'm going to go now. That reactivates that anxiety. You're leaving me. Oh my gosh. When am I ever going to see you again? But if you say like, okay, we did our handshake, I'm going to go wait at the door, and then I will see you when the bell rings. That shift from then I'm going to go to, and then I will see you at 3:00 is a small way we're rewiring that anxiety in the brain to not feel so stressed, but to remember like, okay, yeah, there's a plan. There's an end to this day. In a lot of classrooms, there's visual calendars, like kids, even before they can read the words, they can see like, okay, it's writing for this many minutes, then it's recess. You can do this at home as well. And I'm going to link this also in the show notes. Get a visual calendar for your morning routine. I have one that you can use, and it's like just pictures and words, and it's like what we're going to do. So anxiety loves unknowns, but if we can just name and name, my favorite definition of anxiety is it's an overestimation of the problem and an underestimation of your ability to deal with it. So we have overestimated the problem, right? School is so long. I don't know when I'm going to see my parents again. It's such a big amount of time. Underestimating how we can work through it. So giving tools makes us reminds kids, okay, I do know what to do. So we're right sizing the problem by being like, you're safe, you're loved. Here's how the morning is going to go. Here's your job. Here's what I'm going to do while you're at school. And here's our plan when I get there. So we are right sizing the problem, and we are giving the exact strategic movements that they're going to do throughout the day. So give them a visual routine as well. Print this out from the link in my show notes. It's a free download, but it's going to be, morning, brush teeth, brush hair. Like you can do your own. You could just make it on a Post-it so they can like see, check, check, check. It does not have to be this big laminated, beautiful thing with switches and light bulb. Like just do it on a Post-it, do whatever you have, but let them see the order of events. And then it's going to be school. And then it's going to be pick up and ice cream or whatever it is. So I would say in summary, don't try to squash it. Spend a short amount of time validating their feelings. Let them like say how they feel and say like, yeah, it's scary. I understand. I felt that way when I went to my new tennis lesson. And here's how we're going to do it. Do a reset. Like go on Saturday. Don't take that time to talk about it. Just go to the school and have a fun thing. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So we're firing, exciting, the dopamine hit of a donut and my favorite song. And then we're going to the park we also drove to the school that morning. So we're wiring those neurons together. It's exciting. It's not scary. And then also we're still having connection. Our grownups are still with us in that time. So do a fun reset and then have that same routine, the same song. Read some books if you want about like having big feelings and how it's hard, and have some conversations, but keep them short. Let there be an end to them and then move on. Like don't dwell too much. And similarly with school drop off, like have your routine, do your things, kiss your heart on your hand, do your handshake, tell them you're going to wait, and then move on, be done. This is of course like don't do anything that doesn't feel good. If they're like screaming, crying, like you don't have to, I'm not saying rip your child away from you, but keep the routine and be brief. The longer we linger, the more opportunity there is for kids to start going, oh no, my mom's still here. Should I go give her one more hug? I was an anxious kid. Oh my gosh, was I an anxious kid? I will share a picture of me crying every day going to school, but I was so anxious. And I remember my mom talking outside of school, and I had said goodbye, and like she was there and like, should I go give one more hug? And like then it's like this panic, like she's still there. Should I go give another hug? Like be brief, do the routine, make sure they're safe, and move on. And shift from saying like, it's time for me to go now to, I can't wait to see you at the end of the day, and then we'll go get ice cream. Shift from, if you don't cry, then we'll do this, to, oh, I know it's hard, but I am going to miss you so much. And when I pick you up, we are going to go to the park. So those subtle shifts, giving that anxiety a job, and read some books about it, talk about it, but make sure there's parameters around it. So it's not just like, a lot of times anxious kids just feel like they're ruminating in their anxious thoughts. So really try to like put some boundaries around it, and have that routine and stick to it. Like it is your exact plan, because that is how we can right size the problem of anxiety. And of course, remember to talk to your child's teacher, administration, social workers. They are there to help you. They love to come up with a plan. They love to be on each other's teams. So many of the parents that I've talked to said like, oh, and then the teacher sent a picture or an email and said they're having a great day. And like, shout out, kiss the brain, all pat on the back to all those teachers. That is amazing. They have so many things going on. They're being an expert in every subject. They're doing behavior management. They are helping every single child, and they're finding the time in the day to give an update to the parent who is worried. So make sure you appreciate your child's teacher for all of these moments of connection. And don't forget that you are an expert on your child. Nobody knows your child more than you. So take a minute to think about like, what would you need to be regulated? What would help them be regulated? And honestly, share that aloud with your child. Like give them some brave brain talk. Say, I felt anxious when I felt worried when I went to school, or when I went to a meeting, or when I went to soccer practice, whatever you're doing, make sure that you are like narrating that for your child and showing them how you worked through it, because that is going to go a long way. Kids don't do what we say, they do what we do, and how we talk to them becomes their inner voice. So make sure you are talking to them in that brave brain talk. Make sure you're narrating what you went through so they know, oh, this is normal. Oh, my mom did this too. Okay. And remember, you got this. It's totally normal, and you are not alone if your child is having some anxiety or some big behaviors right now. Before I forget, there's one other book, Ruby Finds a Worry, is a great one for opening the door to talk about worries. And also that is here on the podcast if you want to listen to it as well. So check those stories out. I'll link all of these books on back to school transitions and big feelings in the show notes. And I will also link the back to school routines. But that's all I have for you today. Welcome to season 3 of the Play on Words podcast. I'm your host, Miss Beth from Big City Readers. I'm so excited to deep dive this school year, all things learning behaviors, literacy, and early childhood development. And I'm so glad you're here. Please reach out on Instagram or email if you have any questions. I have a boatload of resources on my website, bigcityreaders.com. Literally free resources. I mean, like tons, printables, games, learning the ABCs, learning to read. I also have video courses on demand. And there's also, I have like a searchable blog that talks about scripts on how to email your child's teacher about something uncomfortable. Like so many things. So go search that and reach out if you need anything. I'm so glad to be hanging out with you this season. I'll see you next time.